if they do, their brains won't work right. They're going to be so worried about how they're doing, they're not going to be able to think clearly. And so if you can reiterate with your children, that we just want them to do their very best. We want them to try their hardest. It's our job to prepare them, and it's their job to do their best on the test. And we're trying not to put a lot of pressure on children here. Our children are 3rd graders, are 8 years old. This is a lot of pressure for an 8-year-old to have to think about is, are they going to pass the test? That's not a stress that we want to put on children. We want them to come in, be confident, know that they're going to do their very best, and then when we get their scores, that gives us information about how to help them next year and what kind of strategies we can use with them. So you're going to hear some great things today from our assessment director, Beth Kiefer. She's going to give you some information about the test itself, about the Georgia milestones. You've got some great information about the exact testing dates. This year we're doing it a little bit differently, and different grade levels are testing on different days. So one thing I did want to point out, on your blue sheet, the 3rd bullet down, it says that all testing will be online. That is not true. Our 3rd graders will still be doing the paper pencil booklet test. Here at Cumming, 4th and 5th graders will do the computer, and at Otwell, all 3 grade levels will do the computer. But our 3rd graders, we just felt like weren't as proficient with their typing skills yet. We wanted to give them that first year of testing in the booklets, to do the booklets this year. If your students have accommodations for their testing, maybe their questions are read out loud to them, they will be on a computer for that. But otherwise, our 3rd graders will be doing the paper pencil booklet. That was the only thing I saw in here that I wanted to clarify. So I'm so glad you're here. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. You're in great hands with these 3 wonderful ladies. I'm going to be stepping in and out. I've got a couple meetings today, but if you have any questions after this and you want to talk to me personally, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here to help and answer any questions you have. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Beth Kiefer. I am the test director in our system. You may also know the name Susan Norse. She is our testing coordinator, and that she would probably be on the front line if you ended up calling to the central office to ask somebody about testing. She may answer before I do. She focuses all of her time on testing. So between the 2 of us, we are happy to answer any questions. Like Ms. Rice said, I am going to share some information about Georgia milestones. I am that kind of presenter that does not mind questions or interruptions, so if I show something or say something that you have a question about, raise your hand, stop me, yell out, and we'll take care of it as we go. This is the 3rd year of the test, of the Georgia Milestones Assessment, and so it's the 3rd year of writing and responding, the 3rd year of online, and I'll say both have gone well over the course of the past 2 years. The first year, I think we had a little technical glitch on the first day of all of our students coming online, but that was a state-created glitch, and we didn't have any other issues. All students were taken care of. Last year, we didn't have any technological glitches across our system. Everything went smoothly. Individual students might have had an issue here and there, but they were taken care of. I am very comfortable with the online format. I grew up with paper pencil testing, but I'm very comfortable with the online. So we'll talk through that a little bit today as we discuss. We're going to talk about the purpose of the milestones, the structure of the test, score reports, online testing, and how parents can help. And y'all play a very big role. I'm going to reiterate what Ms. Rice said in helping children calmly take the test. Take the test with just show what I know attitude and not worry about making 100, because that just doesn't happen. So the Georgia Milestones Assessments are tests that cover grades 3 through high school. In the elementary and middle school years, you're going to say end of grade tests, or EOGs, that cover in 3rd through 8th grade English, language arts, and math. All students, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th will take English and mathematics. Because of a Senate Bill 364 that was introduced last year to reduce the amount of testing, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th graders will not take science and social studies. So you'll see that 3 through 8 will take English, language, arts, and math, and additionally, 5th graders and 8th graders will take science and social studies. So that did reduce the testing load on 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. In high school, and in some middle school courses, students take the end of course test. 9th grade literature, American literature, Algebra 1, geometry, biology, physical science, U.S. history, and econ. Those are the 8 courses that are associated to an end of course or an EOC. In the middle schools offer accelerated Algebra 1. So if your child's in accelerated Algebra 1, they would take the Algebra 1 EOC. If all children in middle school take physical science as an 8th grader, that is a high school course, and part of the thinking behind that was we wanted kids to enter high school with a credit. They're taking a science at any rate in the middle school, so they may as well get the science. They'll all take in 8th grade the physical science EOC. Okay. The end of grade assessment helps us determine promotion and retention. The reading score for 3rd grade and 5th grade will help determine promotion retention in 3rd grade and 5th grade and 8th grade. In 5th and 8th grade, mathematics will also be something that we look at. In reading, we look at the below grade level reading status. I'm going to show you where that is on the parent report or the student report so that you can see it. In mathematics, a student who is a beginning learner would be identified for retention. So those are the 2 ways that students in 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade are identified for possible retention. So I'm going to say this, in Forsyth County, we have waived the state's promotion, placement, retention rule. That used to say, or that does say, if a 3rd grader fails reading, if a 5th grader fails reading or math, if an 8th grader fails reading or math, they must be retained. In our waiver, we say the Forsyth County Board of Education has said that if they do not meet expectations in reading or math, this test will be used as one piece of evidence in a conversation in a placement committee to determine placement or retention. This test is not the end-all be-all of a student's retention. It's not going to make or break a student. It's going to give the teacher and the parent and the administration one more point of information. If the student is not doing well in reading and math, does that match what the student has demonstrated all year long? Or is that different from what the student has demonstrated all year long? And there will be conversation about what's best for the child. So that's left up to a placement committee. So end of grade, this test is one piece of evidence. The end of course is a bit different in that the end of course test, or the EOC, is the final exam for that course. And it must count 20% of the student's final grade. That's calculated into the course grade and what you see on the report card. The 20% doesn't automatically make you fail. If you had, say, an 85 in the course and you got a 69, anything below 70 is not meeting expectation of failing the test. If you had an 85 in the course and you got a 69 on the test, and that counted 20%, you might come out of the class with a 75, and you passed the class. So, the end of course, you could pass or fail it depending on where your course average is. It's counted as 20% of the grade. We don't count EOGs as a percent of the grade, we count them in discussion in a placement committee. For middle schoolers and high schoolers, anybody who wants to test out of one of the end of course tests, A student who says, well, I am really, really good at algebra and I don't want to have to take algebra in 9th grade when I go to high school, can take a test down, and if they score a 90 or above, they will be given the credit for that course. And they can do that for any one of these particular courses. The student can't be enrolled in the course. They have to take the test before they've ever been introduced to the content, and if they pass with a 90 or greater on the test down, they will be given credit. The last thing that the scores for these Georgia Milestones do is provide accountability for teachers, for students, for administrators, for school systems. So it's counted in our CCRPI, it's counted in our TEKS and our DEEKS. That's an accountability measure as well. When we get test scores, we don't just say, this student got a 525, and this student got a 600, and this student got a 490. We utilize the information that comes back on the score reports in order to inform our own instruction. So when teachers look at reports, they look at how students did, and they use that information, albeit that information comes back at the end of May or June. Over the summer and during pre-planning, teachers look at test data to inform instruction for the group of students they have. So we are using the data to inform instruction. As well, we use it at the system level to determine where we might need to place more emphasis on staff development for our teachers. For example, there was a year when we were giving EOCTs and math scores came back very low. So we created a math data team. We created professional learning for teachers that taught math. So it helps us at the district level to look at what we need to do for teachers based on the scores. I mentioned that the Georgia Milestone score is one piece of evidence for student progress or student performance in the elementary and middle school grades. And then the last thing we always strive for is that teachers will go back and look at how their students did on the Georgia Milestones so that they can reflect on what they did and or didn't do. And then for the next year of students, they can make sure to change their lesson plans or improve for that type of student in the future. So we use the data for multiple reasons. It's not just given and then put away. The Georgia Milestones, we have 4 different tests, and this is both end of grade and end of course. English Language Arts has 3 sections, a writing section, a reading and comprehension section, which there are 2 of those sections. The writing section will be given on day 1, and it's a 90-minute block. Students respond to a 3 multiple choice, 1 constructed response, and an extended writing. The multiple choice, or selected response, is one of the options, and that's the multiple choice. You're used to seeing a multiple choice question in an English Language Arts test. What's new about the Georgia Milestones are the constructed response, which could be in the way of a short answer, and the extended response in a narrative response to text, and the extended writing response that is more like an essay. The constructed response and the narrative response to text are pretty short. The short answer could be a couple of sentences. The constructed response or extended response narrative could be a paragraph. The state, especially when looking at the extended writing, will always judge or score the writing based on the student's grade level. So for example, if I'm looking at an extended writing and I've got a 3rd grade paper, I am not going to expect a 5-paragraph essay because that's not what they do in 3rd grade. So if I was looking at an 11th grade American Lit extended response, I'd be looking for that 5-paragraph essay because they should have, by 11th grade, mastered how to write a 5-paragraph essay. So the scoring is differentiated based on grade level. As well, because it's only a 90-minute block, for which a student can respond to the question, the state's looking for a draft. If they can follow the flow of the content and it makes perfect sense to the rater, the score will be fine. It could be missing a period. It could have some capitalization that didn't occur. So those are kinds of things that when we look at a 90-minute testing session, you're not looking for a final perfect copy. Now, if it is discontiguous and they don't understand the flow, or there's a lot of punctuation or grammar that really impedes progress of scoring, it'll get a lower score. But they are expecting a draft over a final copy. It used to be when we gave the writing test, they would do in the first 90 minutes they would have to write their draft, and in the next 60 minutes they would have to write their final copy. They don't have that, and the state's not expecting that final copy. But it should be close enough to be coherent and understandable. You'll see that all the way across English Language Arts. In mathematics, you have selected response or multiple choice. You also have constructed response and paragraph response in the math. I'm one of those proponents of making sure that we include writing in a student's testing setting. When you go to the workplace, you don't choose A, B, C, or D. You have to verbally communicate or in writing communicate. You might be creating a schedule for people to follow, and you're writing that out, and it has to be understandable. Choosing A, B, C, or D doesn't teach a child how to communicate appropriately. But if they have to synthesize information and make it appropriate to re-deliver to somebody else in a verbal form or a written form, they are work ready. They are career ready. And we want our kids to be ready for the real world, not an ABCD world. Science and social studies, you will see that it is solely multiple choice at this point in time. Those standards will be changing next year. And so with that standard change, in the next several years, you might see some constructed response and extended writing on those particular tests. The state hasn't said when they would do that. They have said that they would consider rolling that out after the standards. The very last column that you see says technology enhanced. That includes problems that are, or questions that are a little different than the norm. Because we're looking at online, we have options that we didn't used to have. An example of that is multiple choice is typically a question and 4 answers, and the student picks one of the 4. But if you want to ratchet that up and make that a higher rigor, higher level question, you give 6 or 7 answer choices and ask students to find the 2 or 3 that are the most appropriate. So now that we have online testing, they can do that. That's a technology-enhanced type of question. Another way to enhance a question is to have a 2-part, a multi-part question. And so the student has one scenario. Part A might be a multiple choice. Part B, same scenario, might be an open-ended answer the question. So you'll see more of that now. One that hasn't come yet, but potentially could come, are the drag and drop. So here's your question, drag and drop to place things into the right area. So that's something that with technology we can do in a question type. This year, technology enhanced with the multiple part and the multiple select is operational. Those questions will be in the ELA and the MAP and will count. Last year they were field testing those items. This year they're going to be actually in the test. Science and social studies kids might see them, but they don't count for a score yet. Next year they'll count for a score. I'm throwing a lot of information at you. If you have a question, yell it out. Okay, so in elementary school, students may not use calculators. In middle school and high school, students have the opportunity to use a calculator. On the math test, or physical science, or econ, particular tests, the state will tell you, and I will agree, that all of the questions on the test don't require, a student doesn't have to have a calculator. It just makes it easier. The student could figure out the problem without a calculator, but the calculator gives the students a little bit, it's a little bit easier for students. Students can finish the problem more quickly. So they are allowing calculators on 6th grade through high school. There's specific types of calculators by grade level. In the online platform, if a student takes the test online, let's say they're a 7th grader, they'll see the scientific calculator. When it's available for the math portion, it'll pop up as an icon and the student can click on it and use it. We are allowing handheld calculators. The administration will distribute those to kids. All kids will get the same calculator in middle school and high school. And kids taking online will have access to another calculator as well. You don't have to send your child with a calculator. They can't use it in the test. We have to provide it. You'll notice that elementary school does, I don't know if I said it, but they do not use calculators. Okay, when we talk about the Georgia Milestones achievement levels, this is what you'll see. You'll see that they reference beginning learners, developing learners, proficient learners, and distinguished learners. We don't any longer have meets and exceeds, pass, fail. These levels really identify where the student is performing in regards to mastery of the standards. So beginning learner is a student who really hasn't mastered most of the standards in an area and is really not ready to go on to the next level. This is a student that you'll be sitting in SST, looking at IEP, is sitting in an IEP meeting over. At the end of the year, if a student is in a beginning level learner, you'll have conversations about what's best for the child. Is retention best for the child? Is placement in the next grade level appropriate for that child? It's all based on the standards and how much knowledge the child has in those standards. A developing learner has some skill in the standard. They didn't master it per se, but they have enough to potentially go on. When they go on, they're going to need support in the next grade level though. They could go on, they're going to have support though. A proficient learner got the standard. They answered enough questions to demonstrate that they know the standards that were assessed. The nice thing about the Georgia Milestones test is that they do ask higher level questions, a small set in every subject, so that if a student does have proficient knowledge, they can demonstrate that they have above mastery. So those questions, if they get those questions right, they're identified as a distinguished learner. They are ready, they are set, they may move on. Questions about levels? This is what a student report would look like. There are 2 pages. The first page is kind of an overall view, and the second page gives you more specific information. At the top, you'll see your child's name and information about your child. It'll tell you in this box what the test was, when it was given. And then in this area, you'll see your child's achievement level. Remember, we just talked about beginning, developing, proficient, and distinguished. That's what this is English language arts. You see proficient learner. And then there were 4 categories, and so I like a graphic kind of stuff. I like seeing the 3 bars. That's that proficient learner, 3 out of 4. In mathematics, I was a developing learner, and so I got 2 bars out of 4. In science, I'm distinguished. I got all 4 bars. So you can look at your child in each of the areas and see where he or she performed, what level, and then what their actual scale score was. So, and then it tells you down at the bottom what the range was, so you can see where in the range your child performed. At the very bottom, it explains what we read on the previous slide, what a beginning learner is, what a developing learner is, what a proficient learner is, what a distinguished learner is. So all this information kind of sets you up as to how your child performed, giving you the level and the score. The second page kind of takes you a little bit farther, gives you a little bit more deep information. On the left-hand side, it tells you the achievement level again. Proficient learner, scale score was a 510. Reiterates, because this is English language arts, it's reiterating this box. If you had a math report, it would reiterate this box, and so on. For English language arts, and the reason we put this one up here is because it has an additional box that shows the reading and vocabulary domain and the writing and language domain. This up here, the reading and vocabulary domain, is what is the trigger for not meeting expectations in reading. So if a student's performance up here said below, that's where the state would automatically tag that student as a retention student. Our system waived that promotion retention rule. They're not an automatic retention, but they're going to sit in a placement committee meeting, and the folks in the committee meeting are going to talk about what does this score mean, how does it compare to my student's progress. There's also information about writing and language that breaks out how many points for each one of the constructive response and the extended writing that that student got. So that you can look back at that as well and talk to the teacher about how does that compare to how my child writes in the classroom. The middle box is a comparison. Because when I get my kids' score reports, I want to know where they were in the range, and I want to know how they compared to others. So I see the first column is where the student scored. The second column is how the school, what the average in the school was, so I can compare my child to the school average. The next column is the system average, how the students across the system scored, and I can compare my child to how he or she performed compared to the system. And the last column is the state, and I can compare my child to the state. So that just kind of gives you a little bit deeper information. The state was also, the test, the Georgia Milestones, the state's required to create a test that you can look at and compare to national norms. I don't know how many of you have been in the system long enough to know several years ago we were part of a national consortium, HARD assessment, and we backed out of that and created our own test, but we still had to have a way to compare our results to the nation. They used some nationally normed test items. They actually used 20 questions in each test that are nationally normed. 10 of those questions aligned to our state standards. 10 of them did not, but they were good questions to ask in ELA and math. So they included them. The score, when you get your student score, will reflect 10 of those 20 nationally normed questions. This national percentile will be a composite of all 20 questions, and you can say that your child was at the 60th percentile, which means they did better than 59% of kids across the nation. It's a small sample, it's not exact, so this number is a good predictor, but not the exact national percentile. They'll give you a national percentile range. If your child took a nationally normed test, they should perform in this particular range. So that gives you some information to a national level. In the last set of boxes at the bottom, you may have heard about Lexile scoring. Lexiles are used to determine a student's reading level. We use, and you can talk to your ELA teacher, your English language arts teacher, for a little bit more information about Lexiles, but there's a stretch band. And students in 3rd grade are expected to read in this Lexile range. In 4th grade, they're expected to read in this Lexile range. They give you the Lexile number down in this box, and then they give you things that your child could read easily. Not not necessarily books that your child has to read, but books that they could read, given their lexile. So it gives you lots of information. This information at the bottom about lexiles you'll only find on the ELA report. And the information up here in the domain categories of reading, vocabulary, and writing language you'll only find on the ELA. Everything else you'll find repeated on the math and the science and social studies. So they will look similar. Questions about the individual student report?
Will we get a copy of this?
This is what you would get a copy of. And in fact, because we're going electronically, you might get a copy, you might see the copy in Infinity or Parent Portal. But for now, we're going with the paper reports. You'll receive them here. You'll receive this. Usually it's sent out when we get them. Last year, we got them in June in some cases. And so some schools sent them, and some schools sent an email or a parent messenger and said they're available at the school, come pick them up. And then at the beginning of the year, if somebody didn't pick it up, they sent it home with the student. If you need a copy, because you didn't get one, the school has to keep them on file, so you can just ask. That was one question. I didn't hear you. I think for us, for this year, that the score report would be available by June, yes. We hope earlier. We would love to be able to send them home with report cards, but we're at the mercy of the state.
How come the score range differs in each subject?
How come the school range?
The score ranges differs from each subject.
I'm not understanding.
The student reports, the score range for each subject, it differs, right?
It does differ.
Why is it?
They used to have a very consistent score range, and everything from 400 to 500 was a failure, and 500 to 575 was a BCC. They've done away with that because they shouldn't be looked at as synonymous. Everything has a different number, maybe a different number of questions, and they wanted to make it exact to the test. So for grade level and subject, you could find that one test, the highest distinguished score is a 590, but for another test it's 610. So it's based on the questions, the rigor of the questions, the number of questions. In each set of questions, if you have 60 questions, you might have anywhere from 5 to 10 that are field tests. So when those are removed, because those should not be scored, it leaves a variable number of questions. So that's where those different score points come from. But it is different. I don't memorize them anymore because it's different for every test and every grade. Online testing. We do have more and more students that are testing online. In our first year, we tested the waters with just small groups of students testing. Last year, we asked schools to put at least one grade level online. Some went more, some went a little bit less. This year, we're asking schools to go at least 2 grade levels, but they're going in accordance to their capacity. Some schools are just testing students with accommodations online. Most schools, especially at the middle school level, you heard them say Otwell is doing it, are testing everybody, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade online. Elementary schools, depending on the number of Chromebooks, because they like Chromebooks for testing, depending on the number of Chromebooks they have, they might be testing anywhere from 1 to 3 grade levels. So if your child goes to a school other than Cumming or Otwell, you need to talk to the principal or assistant principal or your teacher as to who's testing online and who's not. That's a little varied across the district. But we do have more, because we use desktops that are in the classrooms, we use Chromebooks, and we use notebooks. Those are, which are just regular laptops. We have capacity to test at least 1 grade level online. So we're seeing that more and more. The state requires 100% online 2 years from now. This is our 3rd year. By the 5th year, we're supposed to test everybody online. I truly feel like kids have grown up in the online world, and that's what they're used to. About 5 years ago, when we used to test the CRCT, I don't know if you remember that particular test, that was before the Georgia Milestones in the grade, we would have retests every year, and we started in the last couple of years of CRCT giving the online retest. Typically, the students who do not do well on the paper pencil test really enjoyed the opportunity of sitting down to an online platform and picking answers by just clicking. I like the online platform because when you get an online test, you have one question and the answer set side by side. You read the question, you pick your answer. It's just a click, and you're done. It moves to the next question. One question, one answer set. It's not confusing. If you've ever been given a test booklet, you have 6 to 8 questions per page. You have to transfer your answer from the booklet to the answer sheet. It can become very messy. Kids like easy these days. I like easy. It's very easy to look at the question and click an answer. Whether I have paper, pencil, or online, if I'm calculating and I'm working a problem out, I have to do it on a piece of paper anyway. And it doesn't matter if it's in the test booklet or on just a blank sheet of paper. I have to do my calculations. So either way, I think kids enjoy the online world a little bit better.
On the online ones, are they allowed to like skip a question and then go back?
They absolutely can. The platform is really neat. I've got a page that will allow you to go in and access the online platform. The online platform has multiple tools that the students can use, and one of them is a flag. And they can flag the question for later review. When they get to the very end of the test, they'll see a box that puts up every question, and there'll be a check mark if they need to go back to it. Or there'll be a check mark if they've answered it, and it'll be blank if they didn't. So it's definitely a really nice way to test. I'm going to move on because I want to show you the page that I'm referring to. So the public site, for students to practice online, there's a practice site that you have access to and kids can go to. It's Georgia Experience Online. I recommend that you have homework tonight and at some point you go into the Georgia Experience Online and look through it and see what your child will be using. If the student's going to be testing online, we ask that the teachers make this site available to the students, and we ask them to do a secure practice test in the school. In the secure practice test, the kids will get questions that somewhat typify what they see on the actual test. It's like 5 to 10 questions. The reason for doing the practice is just to become comfortable with the platform, not to go in and take a mimic test or to mimic the testing in the way of content, just to become very familiar with how to answer, how to use the tools. So those two opportunities allow that. When they do the secure at the school, the student will be given a practice test ticket. It'll have their name on it, it'll have their username and their password. They'll have to go in and sign in like they would on the real test. So this mimics, it's a little bit more secure than just going on the public site and clicking. The student has to follow some pathways to get to the real test. So we ask them to test twice, do 2 different things. Most every student has access to all of these tools. Where you see all, these are the tools that students have access to. I'm going to start at the top. Periodic table, if you're taking a science course that allows the periodic table. It'll be an icon. If that test allows it, the student clicks on it and a periodic table comes up. If you've taken a math test before and the teacher gives you a 6th grade formula sheet, you click an icon and there's the 6th grade formula sheet. Highlighter, sticky note, flag, line guide, and cross-off tool, everybody has. Any student who takes the test online. Highlighters, actually you click on it and you can highlight in yellow whatever you want to highlight. Something important in the question, if you're reading a passage, something that you wanted to highlight. The sticky note, if you think of something while you're reading a passage and you want to write something down, you click on the sticky note, you write your thoughts down, you type your thoughts down. And then that sticky note will be there anytime you come back to that question, so you can remind yourself what you were thinking. The flag, you click the flag if you want to mark that question to come back to. Let's say I'm on number 5, and my teacher has told me, don't stay on questions for very long. Take your best guess. Go on to number 6, 7, and 8. When you're finished, come back to number 5. Well, they'll remember at the end of the test because that number 5 will be flagged, and it will say, you want to go back to this question, and then they just choose number 5 and they go back to it. The line guide, I love. I like reading online, but I don't love reading online because at times I get, with a piece of paper, I take and I use my fingers as a guide. The line guide is literally, you click the button and a line comes up, and you can move that line down the page underneath a line at a time. So when you're reading, you don't go from the 3rd line to the 5th line. So a really nice feature, I love it. It makes being able to read online so much more accommodating. The online calculator, that icon only pops up if you're 6th grade through 8th grade or high school, and you can have the calculator. So it will only pop up for certain tests, and then you have access to it. The graphing tool is only for end of course. That icon will only pop up if you're taking an end of course math test, but then students have a graphing tool. It's like a graphing calculator. The cross-off tool, everybody has access to. If you've got 4 answer choices, and you think, oh, I know C is not an answer, and you are on that paper pencil, you normally cross through things, you take that cross-off tool and go, and it'll red X that answer choice. So now you only have to look at 3 because you in your head have narrowed it down to 3. So it's pretty sweet. If you're talking about testing online, in the very beginning when they used to have online testing, it wasn't so sweet. It wasn't so nice. It was a little, you push the edge of really wanting to go back to paper pencil because you could do all those things on paper pencil. They've made it really nice now, and this is what students align to. They've grown up in the world of technology. I have to assimilate to it because I didn't grow up in it. But my own children, they grew up in it, and this is what they know, and so clicking on a button is just norm for them. So I like the pieces that they have available to students for testing online. Okay, this is where I'm going to reiterate what Ms. Rice said. You, as parents, can help in 2 ways. Create a positive attitude for testing and get your kids prepared for testing. There is a lot of parent concern, a lot of nationally, a lot of political concern about testing. It's something that we use, that test score is something that we use for information. We want it to be valid and reliable. If you talk negatively about the test, your kids won't take it seriously, and we are lacking information. At some point, your child is going to have to take some sort of test to get into a job, to get into college, to move on in life. We take tests, whether it be a written multiple choice test or an interview or something, but they're going to have to go through this. If you can create a positive environment for your child to take tests, they'll never be fearful of an interview. They'll never be fearful of doing a project with a team. And that's what we want to create. This is just one additional exercise that students have. It's an opportunity for them to show what they know. Do your best. And that's what you relate to your children. I know you're scared. Don't worry about it. Show what you know, because they're going to take that information, and we'll talk about it after you're done, and we'll see what you know. Physically and mentally, same things as always. Get a good night's sleep before the test. Eat well, not out of the norm. A lot of parents on test morning, they say, okay, let's have a big breakfast. You're going to have your test today. And that student has to raise his hand 3 times to go to the restroom because they're not used to eating that much during the So just follow your normal behavior. Your normal behavior is probably typical in the elementary years to provide an early bedtime, to give them breakfast or something to eat before they come to school, have physical activity. My test coordinator told us today that she had a parent at a meeting last night say, all the parents in the neighborhood are going to keep their kids inside during the nights before testing to keep them quiet. Don't deviate from the norm. If your kid normally goes outside and plays in good weather, let them go outside and play. They'll probably need to run off a little steam after having sat in a testing session. But let them have physical activity. If you want further information, you can go to your school's website, I'm sure. You can go to the Georgia Department of Education's website. A lot of times, this is for our older students that are taking end-of-course tests. They have study guides that are posted to the Department of Education. And students like to look at example problems for the end-of-course test, and they can go there. That might help calm them. I would never recommend that you go to the site, you print down the 200-page study guide and make your child do that packet of work. I dissuade teachers from doing that. I don't think prep in that respect is a very good idea. Teachers teach all year long, and this is one way for kids to show what they know based on what the teacher has taught all year long. And then you'll have the Practice Public website at home. So I'm going to go here. You have access to this website. Have a very colorful sheet in your hand. When you click the website, on the website, you'll actually get to the picture that you see in the middle of the page. If you need this in a Spanish version, let one of the ladies over here know, and they can get you a Spanish version. I sent the electronic copy so they can translate it for you if you need it. It's really pretty easy. When you see, let's see if I can connect. Let me see if I can connect from here.
Click on it?
I tried and it went to the next slide. So when I click this, this is the picture that comes up. So this picture has three options. If you look at the gold icon, it says documentation. And those documents are documents that explain, and I think it's 9 pages, how to go to the green button and take the test. It also shares some information about different accommodations that students with IEPs or TPCs have, so it will explain some of the accommodations. So that's the yellow button. If you're like me, I don't read before I do, and I just go and I click the green button, and it will tell me, it's very user-friendly, you can just click through. When you use the green button, you'll see a screenshot that says, this is the password, this is the username, and this is the password, and you have to take that information and plug it into the 2 spots at the bottom. It'll ask for a username, and it's really literally right above it. So look for the username and password, and then just type them into the boxes below. And it'll take you to the test. And it mimics the writing test, so that you'll see some multiple choice, you'll see some open-ended where you have the short answer and you can actually type in your answer. You'll see the constructive response, you can type in your answer. If you have elementary or middle school students taking end of grade, you'll choose the end of grade option. If you have high school students and you want to look at the end of course, you can choose the end of course option. That's in the green button. In the blue button, the state actually made a tutorial video. So if you don't want to read what's in the orange, but you want somebody to show you through the actual website, click on the blue button and they'll talk you through. Click here, do this, this is what you see. They'll explain all the buttons that are available. They'll show you, and then you can go click the green. I recommend highly that you do this for homework so you can kind of feel through what your students are going to participate in. And I think you'll see that it is probably very easy online. I do tend to think that when you have a paper pencil and you have to transfer answers over and go back and forth, that does tend to create a little stress. With the online, clicking a button doesn't create so much stress, especially if you live in that technological world. So I apologize that it didn't come up, but that's what you'll see, and those are what those 3 buttons are for. So take that home as a homework assignment. Is it going to do it now? So at the very end, these are our contact numbers and emails. My name is Beth Kiefer. My email address was there. And then Susan Norris. So it was Beth Kiefer and Susan Norris. If you have questions, you can call our, oh, there we go. If you have questions, you can call us at the county office, and we put our extension numbers in, or email us and ask us questions. You're welcome to do the same at your school, asking any administrator set at either AWO or Cumming, their own teacher. They should know this information as well.
And I was going to say that if you do not have access to a computer at home, or you want to come in, you can come to the parent resource room. I'm actually just right across the hall. You can come in and we can pull up the laptops. I have desktops in my room, and you can feel free to come in and practice on these all you want. So I have lots of room in there. That if you just let me know, you can call the school or email me or call me, and I'll definitely sit down with you and help you navigate through the website. And Kelly as well at Allwell.
Questions that you have about George